You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois, Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022, around 7 p.m. And we are playing the second of our two play-by-mail games. We played the first one 2 hours ago, and now we're up to the LA.Noire Bloom of Hollywood case, set in 1930s, 1940. This session will take about an hour. We're on turn 5. If you are just for some reason jumping into this here instead of watching the first 4 turns, you should vamoose and watch those first 4 turns before you watch this one. You can catch up, and we'll be playing turn 6 in about a week's time. So no reason to start here. Start from the beginning, catch up, and you can join us for the live playthrough next week. The replies seem to be coming a little quicker, so we've been able to do these every 7 to 10 days now. And a reminder that I'll be at Gen Con convention in Indianapolis next week, but if the timing works perfectly, we'll meet again to play the next sessions of this in 7 to 10 days. You should let me know if this is a good time to play these. I'm sort of flexible about this. Normally we play these games at night at around 11 p.m., but we've been doing these play-by-mail games sort of at random times as soon as they come. But if you could let me know, you can let me know on the Board Game Geek forum section for this YouTube channel, for the Co-op for Two channel. You can find a link to that in the community tab on the YouTube channel. And if you're watching these not live, but you're catching up, keeping up with us week to week, first of all, you should feel free to chime in. This is the perfect game to dip your toes into the water and make suggestions in the live comments. Or if you're not watching these live, but you're watching them, in the weeks as they come out, leave some comments on the YouTube video. Let me know, post where you think would be good leads to go, if you have any different theories, but by all means, make suggestions for what leads to check out. If the chat could let me know if the audio and video is okay. Let's see if we've got the chat here. Okay, everything seems to be working. As I said, I will be at Gen Con. If you see me at Gen Con, come over and say hello. Tap me on the shoulder. I have nothing else that I have to do at Gen Con. You can just feel free to walk up and say hello and say you've seen the channel, and I will be delighted. Anything else for us to talk about before we get started and read the reply? Speaking of not having specific things at Gen Con to do, I'm going to be bringing my notes for case 1 of my planned detective game. And I'm going to see if I can't hammer out the final details of the case to hand over to Zachary Brown to start writing. So hopefully, if all goes well, case number 1 of the big epic campaign detective game is underway. Anything else for us to talk about? I've been told by Rebecca Minnick that we now have a 5-pound snack limit to bring to Gen Con. So I've been weighing out my snacks. What would be the best snacks to bring to Gen Con if you had a 5-pound limit? What would you can let me know what your choice would be. All right, let's get started here. Maybe we need to do a little bit of recapping. Last week, we got a breakthrough. First of all, we are really convinced that the sister killed Violet. And last week, we got a huge breakthrough where we went to the crime lab, which was a bit of a risk. And because we heard one of the autopsy person mentioned that they sent something to the crime lab. Okay, so we got confirmation that she's been poisoned. And now we think we understand what's going on. We think she died of poison, then she was hit on the back of the head to make it look like a violent crime. they found barbiturates and thallium sulfate, which was the poison. And he says, rat poison or insecticide, take your pick. And then I remembered that when we went to visit the sister, we saw someone with an insecticide around her apartment building spraying for bugs. So we've got a really good theory now of, what would you call? We've got the motive for the sister being jealous, and now we've got the means, like the murder poison was right on the sister's property. So the crime web says they gotta call into the doctor to see if these barbiturates downers were prescribed to her or were also being slipped into her stuff. Now, I'm not sure. What was our theory? Yeah, I was saying, well, it wouldn't surprise me if this actress is being prescribed barbiturates and it has nothing to do with anything. But on the other hand, if she doesn't have a prescription to barbiturates, then maybe the sister's also drugging her up with barbiturates to make her more compliant. So we did decide, one of our leads, we were going to go to the doctor of Violet and see if these are indeed prescribed to her. If they are, it tells us very little. If they aren't, it gives us a clue. So we sent, who did we send to the doctor? I guess we sent Bev. Yeah, we sent Bev to visit the doctor since she's a registered nurse. Naomi Poe, the ex-con sort of socialite, well, we didn't have a real good reason we wanted to visit Joe Stanton, her Violet's ex-acting partner, but Naomi was on the lot of Champion Studios and the woman was like pointing to Joe Stanton, so we thought thematically it would make sense. And then the real stretch that we took was a suggestion by Anna, who couldn't make the stream today. But Anna had us go, we decided to go to one of the neighbors. Actually, this was Jonathan's original idea, was if you look at the scene of the crime right here on this road, we actually don't know exactly where it is, but somewhere around here, we've got 4 immediate neighbors. So we were thinking, well, maybe the neighbors saw something, saw the sister's car arrive, whatever, and we can in fact see that some photograph of her house was taken and published. So we were trying to think, does this picture tell us what neighbor might have had been able to see into the garage? But in the end, we did decide to go to one of the neighbors, and Anna picked the neighbor across the way. This could give us nothing. It could be a breakthrough. We don't know. And even if it's nothing, it doesn't mean that one of the other neighbors didn't see something. But it's a very interesting choice to go talk to the neighbors. Arguably the right thing to do, but possibly could get us nothing. Okay. Let's open this up and see what everyone says. Okay, a reminder how this works. Here's where everyone was sent. So Bill Knight, the main detective, he went to the unknown residence. There's Poppy, goes to visit Joe Stanton, and Bev is going to Baxter. Okay, let's see. So all right, so it's not we're going to the neighbors now, and it's not an empty entry. That's pretty exciting. So let's see what we got. Unknown address, H14, Laurel Canyon. Pulling off Laurel Canyon Road, I was balked almost immediately by an ornate gate with a call box beside it. The people who lived up this way value their privacy, and they weren't all as low-key as Violet York seemed to be. Pity. If she'd had a gate like this, she might still be alive. And again, maybe not. There wasn't a label on the box, just a couple of buttons and a mesh for the speaker. I pushed the one labeled call and waited. A minute later, the speaker buzzed with static and a voice answered, "Can I help you?" Sorry to bother you, I said, pushing talk. My name's William Knight. I'm a private investigator. I wondered if I could speak to the homeowner. What's this concerning? I'm looking into the death of Violet York. There was a pause. We've spoken with the police already. There's nothing to tell. Then the voice's tone turned a little snooty. You realize Miss York's home is more than half a mile away, yes? We can neither see her house nor hear any goings from that distance. Rich folks always manage to rub me the wrong way. The girl's dead. Your neighbor, no less. And you can't even talk for a minute? There was a longer pause, and I was reaching to mash the button again when they finally answered. Miss York was a lovely young woman, and we were sorry to hear about what happened. It was terrible news. If we had anything to share, I assure you we would have told the police. Now, good day. I stared at the box, thinking how easy it would be to pop it open and yank out some important parts. But the impulse passed. I fought the car into reverse, turned around, and headed back down the canyon. Okay, so it was a shot. It was a reasonable shot. We didn't really know distances. I will say there is a scale here in miles. She says here, or this person says, that they're more than half a mile away. So I guess we might take this literally to be about, well, half a mile. This one is pointing here. That seems like less than half a mile. But regardless, these places seem pretty far apart. Although we're told that you can sort of see the other houses surrounding it. So I'm not 100% positive that we wouldn't get some valid information from going to this neighbor on her side. But then again, listening to this, which says, I headed out down the canyon, kind of sounds like Bill McKnight saying, the neighbors aren't going to have much information. So I think, until we run out of leads, it probably doesn't make sense to be bothering the neighbors again. Although I still think, like, if we were going to pick one more neighbor to hit, it might be this neighbor on the way up. This one right here. But not until we get some other reason to suspect that a neighbor has information. Okay, we knew that was a shot in the dark. It could have yielded great information, but it didn't. Bill Knight. I'm just going to write that the neighbor was half a mile away. I still think as a good cop, you got to go talk to the neighbors, right? You have to talk to the neighbors eventually. You can't go to court and be like, I didn't talk to the neighbors. Maybe they saw a car drive up. Maybe they were on their way to their house and another car came driving fast past them. However, one game meta thing you might think about is he says, look what he says. He says, hey, we spoke to the police already. So one logical thing might be to say, look, if the police are doing their job, they are going to have canvassed the neighborhood, and maybe doesn't make sense to try to outthink the cops and do canvassing. Go to the cops first, see if we can figure out were there any witnesses, and then follow them up. Just an idea. Okay. Let's see what Naomi, talking to Joe Stanton, found out. This feels like we might not get that much this session. Well, coincidentally, Joe Stanton and I arrived at his trailer moments apart. Short and handsome as I expected. I introduced myself as Janet from Studio Publicity, and I needed a few minutes of his time. He shrugged and invited me in. Straight away, I told him it was a thrill to meet him, and I loved him in Heart's Tempest. Was excited to be working at the studio, and so on. He smiled and tried to put me at ease. Did I mention he was very handsome? Then, uncomfortably, I asked if he knew why the police would be asking around about Violet York's death. If he knew anything, it would be best if the studio knew too. He was stunned. Violet? No, I have no idea. They can't think I have anything to do with it. Well, I said, in a I hate to tell you so tone, you do have a history of, beating people up. Hold on. I might get into a scrap now and again. A guy mouths off at the bar. I'll give him a thump, but I never hit a woman. I had to do some acting of my own, turning skepticism to optimism. Never? Look, Janet, my old man used to beat me and my mother at the regular. When he left, she raised me all by herself. I love that woman more than anything. Because of her, I swore I'd never be like him. Swore I'd never lay a hand on a woman in anger, and I never have, ever. He's a fine actor, but it was heartfelt. I nodded. And on the night of the murder, Monday the 12th, you were... He sighed. At a wrap-up party at Doll Row. Didn't get home until 2 or 3 in the morning. Drunk as a skunk. My driver, Archie Bingle, damn near carried me to my bed. So he gives us his alibi. He's at a rap party at Dow Ray. Driver, Archie Bingle. Didn't get home till 2 or 3 in the morning. All right. So this is Naomi. Reply 4. Joe Stanton. He's got an alibi. He's at the Doll Ray Club, I assume, till 2 or 3. Check driver Archie Bingle. That's the night of the murder. All right, well, it seems heartfelt. It was heartfelt. She's good at detecting lies. I mean, I guess we're going to have to run down his alibi eventually, but boy, does he not seem... He does not seem like a candidate for us. They were going to act together. He's got no reason to beat her up, let alone kill her. Looks like my mother has joined the channel. I don't know if she's been following this case. All right, now it's time to see what Bev says. All right, let's see. So where did we send? We sent Bev to Violet's personal doctor. So let's see what she got to see if those barbiturates belong to Violet. Bev says, went to age 30 like you asked. Dr. Baxter looks like Santa Claus cleaned up and went into private practice. His secretary closes the door behind me and he stands up with a doctory smile. Ah, Miss Parker, was it? He indicates one of the very comfortable looking chairs in front of his desk. Please sit. You're with the police? Nah, Doc, I said, sitting. I work for a private dick. We're looking into the death of Violet York. I wave a hand before he objects. Now, I know you got your Hippocratic oath and all that. You can't hand over a file or nothing, but I was hoping you could give us just a general sense of her health. Big picture kind of stuff. We've been hired by the girl's mother. So this is related to an estate issue. The tone of the question makes me think there's a right answer. I nod yes, and he visibly relaxes. Yes, well, I would say that overall, Miss York's health was quite good. I see a number of actors and actresses here, mind you, and they all share a certain level of pressure from their profession. Hollywood's a competitive place, you understand. Miss York was no different, and lately she'd been quite worn down. The poor thing was under so much stress she'd begun to lose her hair. Not all at once, mind you, just more in her brush than normal. A few weeks ago, I'd prescribed rest and relaxation, along with a prescription of armorbitol. purely to help her relax, to sleep. Very common. Plenty of things can cause hair loss, though, I say. He chuckles, true, but I'm quite sure Miss York wasn't working with radioactive materials or snacking on rat poison. Being a doctor is something like being a detective, Miss Parker. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the best one. All of her symptoms pointed to basic stress and fatigue. Okay, so here's our little clue that rat poisoning could trigger hair loss. That confirms what was found in her body. And we have learned here now that she was prescribed amobarbital. So that is hers. That is her actual prescription. So probably nothing to do with our case. The amobarbital in her system would have been taken by her to relax her. But she's coming to the doctor of stress, but we think she's being poisoned probably slowly by the sister. And nothing more in here. No further leads to follow up. Just a different way to get a hint about the rat poison. So today's session did not provide us much information, but we should write down, we should make our notes that line number 4, so that the amobarbital was prescribed to Violet. So we're not looking for that to be something that the poisoner put in her drink. I mean, he could have, the poisoner could have found her barbitol, her downers, and added extra, but probably not. Jonathan says, there is the fact that the doctor mentions a potential estate issue. Well, it's possible, but I do notice this. He says, look at what he says. He says, this is related to an estate issue. So he's not saying to us, oh, this is related to the estate issue that I've already been contacted about. That would make us think, oh, maybe there's an estate issue we should worry about. This seems more like he's just assuming that there was an estate issue because we're hired by the mother. But I will write it down. But I don't think we're being told that there is an estate issue. I'm just going to put estate issue question mark. But based on just this sentence, is this related to an estate issue? Doesn't jump out at me that this doctor knows anything. He hasn't mentioned that that anyone has talked to him already. He just seems to have drawn this conclusion by himself. Like, this is what always happens when someone dies. You follow up from a estate issue. All right, I don't think we got much from this set of replies. So we're back to making our own decisions about where to go. Now, I have one place that I thought we should go that we didn't go yet. And that was the person that Poppy, the sister, like, I am laser focused on the sister. I think the sister did it. And if you believe that, and I think we're all in general agreement that that's our most likely case. If that's our most likely case, then we should always be doing a little bit of trailing on the sister's leads. And the last time we talked to Poppy, she was wearing a dressing robe over a satin nightgown. And when we knocked on her door, I wasn't who she was expecting. And then she, at the very end, says, I'm really terribly sorry, Mr. Knight, but I do need to get ready. Mr. Hutchinson from the studio will be here any moment. So from my standpoint, I want to talk to Hutchinson. I think he's sleeping with the sister, sleeping with Poppy Fitzgibbon. and he might have some information on her after he spends the night with her. And I'm just looking up Fitzgibbon, the maiden name, to see if there's anyone we didn't talk to. Sister and mother. So have we not talked? We've got two addresses for Fitzgibbon. One is Poppy. We already went to her place and couldn't find her. But our Fitzgibbon is going to be the Mother Rose. And we have not visited her house yet to talk to her. We might get more information from her if we go there, but let's make a note that we have her address. I'm not sure if we wrote that down somewhere else. Let me find my list of people. So Rose Fitzgibbon, this is the mother. N1 from the directory. Okay, so I'm inclined to want to send someone to Mr. Hutchinson from the studio. Now, I think logically that should be Bill McKnight, because first of all, Bill McKnight's good at detecting lies, but also this guy's more likely to brag about sleeping with Poppy Fitzgibbon than to Bill McKnight, to another man, than he is to talk to Bev or Naomi. Now, Jonathan says it would make sense the mother would have insight on her daughters. Yeah, but don't forget, the mother thinks that Violet would never sleep with anyone. She's kind of in the dark about her sisters, but she could give us some more information about it. Now, the real lead we would love to get is the Mexican boyfriend of Poppy. But we don't know how to get that information. We've gone to where Poppy works as a dancer, and the guy has told us that the boyfriend's name is Julian or Julio, but we don't know how to find him. We looked up in the directory places. And nothing jumped out to us. Another place we could go is to an exterminator to see if the pest spray has that stuff that's in rat poison, but I don't think we need to. I think we know the answer to that already. I think we need to stumble on another clue to tell us where the boyfriend is. So unless we've got a good lead on the boyfriend, our best bet, I think, is to talk to whoever she's sleeping with now. Maybe he got confronted by the boyfriend. Okay, so can we agree to send Bill McKnight to the Mr. Hutchinson at the studio? And we've got his home address, I believe. He's not working at the studio. Do we have his home address? Let's see. Hutchinson, H11. All right, So we're agreed to send Knight to Hutchinson. Let's do that right now. Bill McKnight is going to H11. This is Hutchinson. Okay. Let's do that. Where's my markers? Okay, so Bill McKnight, we're using blue for him, and he's going to go to Hollywood H11. Oh, he's almost a neighbor of Violet. He's very close to Violet. Here's where Hutchinson lived, and here's where Violet lived and was killed. What's this H13? Why is this in orange? I guess that's like a park. Public area. What does it say? It says Hollywood Bowl. Oh, the Hollywood Bowl. That's a club of some sort of performance venue. Okay, so we've sent Bill McKnight to talk to Hutchinson. Now, where do we want to send our other people? It depends a little bit about whether we want... We've got these informants that seem more appealing in this case than in the Sherlock Holmes case, but we've already been to 2 of them. So I'm sort of reluctant to go to the allies, the contacts, for fear of it giving us too much information. But there are valid places to go, including the times that have been mentioned twice. So just to remind you, condolences may be sent to the Times. This is our Violet Fitzgibbon. We could also try to get a lead on the boyfriend from one of our contacts. Small-time crook. Every private eye knows someone like Rudy, a criminal lowlife with big ears and loose lips. A diet of Hollywood news, gossip, and rumors. Or you could imagine maybe the cab records have information. How else can you think of any other way we could get information about the boyfriend? Jonathan says there's also the ADA. Okay, so if we're thinking of ourselves as running down the leads and alibis, the other person that we're told to suspect right from the start is the ADA, Carl Kenner. So we could send one of our people to Carl Kenner. We know that our Violet almost broke up that marriage. Debbie says, do you recall anything about the gardener's description? Well, let's take a look at that again. So I think that might have been our first set of responses. So we go to the house. She's not home. Delivery to the manager, number 24. No answer. Peek through the front window. We got a poster of Club Papillon. We went to that club. That's where we heard more about Poppy. So then we go to the manager's office. We head towards the manager's office. Saw a man in a wide-brimmed gardener's hat crouching by a small tool shed. Are you the manager? He says yes. So he is the manager. And he gives us his name, Aldo Barasamian. We say we're looking for Miss Fitzgibbon. Do you know when she'll be back? He says, no, she went to stay somewhere else. Because too many people are bothering about the sister. You're a reporter? No, just an old friend. Do you know where she went? Nope, he doesn't know. Okay, and then we tracked her down. She's being put up at the hotel. So we've got his name. He's not the boyfriend. And then it was when we went to the club, we got told about the boyfriend. So when we go to the club, she says she's thinking about acting in the movies now that her sister's dead. They put her up at the Knickerbocker. That's where Bill McKnight found her. He says, good riddance. The only thing I miss is that Mexican boyfriend of hers hanging around. Julian or Julio or whatever. Such a cutie. So the boyfriend is hanging around, Julian or Julio. He's Mexican. But is that enough? It doesn't seem to be enough. S11 is where that club was. Here. If he's hanging around, could he work nearby? There's a country club, the cemetery, the airport. I don't think we have enough to try to pinpoint him at any of these places. We don't know anything about him. We don't know what he does for a living. We know nothing about him. Jonathan, is there any of the other performers at the club, real names mentioned that worked at the club? Could look them up in the directory. They might remember Poppy's boyfriend. That's a pretty good idea. And Steppy says, could there be some mention of that name in the newspaper? I don't recall it, but it's been a while. I think we did look. That's a very good guess. I did look for it. I don't know how hard I looked for it, though. But I did look for it. And I didn't find any Julio or Julian. But we could look again. Oh, sorry. I'm just looking through the paper for mention of Julian. I don't see it. It's a good idea, though. But I don't see one. Let's try Jonathan's theory. That's actually quite a good theory. Quite a good idea. Okay, so let's find where okay. All right, let's take another look at this. So we go to the club where she worked. The largest at the top is for Cindy Delight, a blonde wearing ostrich feather fans and not much else. Below her was Arlo Skelly, a zoot-suited dandy with a trumpet. Inga DeBrusque, a dramatically lit woman with a cigarette holder. And last, Miss Poppy Fitzgibbon, who looks like her sister but older. All right, so we've got Cindy Delight, Arlo Skelly, and Inga DeBrusque. Now, one of these is the person who talks to us. So a guy comes over who looks familiar. And he says his name is Schmidt, Dwight Schmidt. Miss Diva's not here. I don't think she's coming back. Okay, who does he look like? Which one is he? Suddenly I knew why he looked so familiar. Schmidt said, turning his chin up as if posing for a photo. Suddenly I knew why he looked so familiar. Her sister died and someone's going to use her. Good riddance. A slim man walking around on the stage, stopping here and there to check marks. Looking over his shoulder. He looked strangely familiar. Sat down. So he's one of these people. But all of these are performance names. Cindy Delight, Arlo Skelly, and Inga DeBrusque. A zoot-suited dandy with a trumpet. Let's see if any of these people are using their real names on the headline. Maybe the musical performers are. Dramatically lit woman with a cigarette holder. I think that's who this guy is. I think Dwight Schmidt may be Inga DeBrusque. But let's look it up. It's a good idea, Jonathan, but I don't think, absent an advertisement telling us who they are, I think these are stage names. Well, here's a C. DeBusque, but not DeBrusque. Okay, so we don't have that one. What about Arlo Skelly? Could that be a performer, musician that's not using a stage name? Arlo Skelly. Yeah, we've got an address. Jonathan, I like this. I like this idea. Arlo Skelly, a zoot-suited dandy with a trumpet. So maybe this person is using their real name, because here is an A. Skelly. N20. I like this idea. I like it. I like it a lot. Very clever. Very smart to go talk, to try to find other people at the club that might know. All right, so let's send someone to talk to Arlo Skelly. Who do you want to send to talk to Arlo Skelly? Probably Naomi, right? Yeah, makes sense for Naomi. Okay, so we're going to send Naomi to Arlo Skelly. So N20, Arlo Skelly from the Papillon. Okay, so we've got two people following up leads on the sister. We're really focusing on the sister. All right, now, Bev, our tough girl, strong woman, registered nurse. Where do we send her? We could send her... I could send it to the ADA. I don't know that the ADA is going to want to talk to her much, but we don't suspect the ADA is involved. So, oh, let's put our mark for Naomi. N20. Right there, looks like all the way up. We could send Bev to talk to the mother. Maybe the mother will tell us more about the sister. We could send Bev to one of our informants. We could send her to check out more alibis of the clubs that people said they were at. There is the bar where the gangsters were at. We could send her there. She seems to know the gangsters. I mean, we're not all that excited about that as a lead, but We've got some more offices we could send her to. Send her to the newspaper. We could send her to the we could send her to the free hot dogs. What do you think? Debbie says sending her to the gangster bar makes sense. It does make sense, except for the fact that we don't think the gangsters are involved. But I guess if we're going to run down those leads, it wouldn't be a terrible thing. Any other better ideas? The Brown Derby. I mean, the informants would be more likely to yield good information. But the question is whether we feel like that's kind of cheating. Like we don't want to make it easy on ourselves. Let's see, where did we hear about the Brown Derby? That was where they had the argument. Where the gangster had the argument. Jonathan Warner says, how fancy was the club the rap party was at? Was it too fancy for Bev? I think Bev would stand out in a movie studio rap party. I do think she would. The Del Rey. We didn't write down where that was even, but it does feel to me like Bev would be out of place there. The actor was at the rap party at Del Rey. Didn't get home till 2 or 3 in the morning. My driver, Archie Bingle, damn near carried me. So we could have Bev try to talk to the driver at home. Don't forget, she's a car mechanic. So she would get along well with the driver if we wanted to lock up his alibi. So going to the mobster bar would be fine for Bev. Going to talk to this driver to lock down this alibi would be reasonable. You guys would rather go to the driver than the mobster bar? Let's let Steppy make let's let Debbie make the decision on this one. All right, Debbie, do you want to go to the mobster bar or do you want to go to the driver? I think they're both equally valid. We can look up, in the meantime, while you're deciding, I'm going to look up the driver's address in the directory, Archie Bingle. Archie Bingle is H83. I mean, the driver, I feel like there are people we don't really think are suspects. Both are for people we don't really think are suspects. Yeah, it's true. All right, we're going with the driver. I think that's going to be very likely just a out-and-out confirmation, but that's all right. We have to get rid of these people anyway if we don't have a better place to go. We've got 2 good ones, though. I like these other ones. Okay, H83. 83 is Archie Bingle, Joe Stanton's driver. Who knows? Maybe he's a driver for other stars as well, and he's been driving around Poppy. Right? Might not be as private. Might have other work. Reminds me of what was the Quentin Tarantino movie recently about Hollywood? Hollywood Story. What was it called? With Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Great movie. The second time was better than the first time, even, I thought. So worth rewatching. Hollywood something story or something like that. Okay, let's put in our entries here. I feel really good. Once upon a time in Hollywood, says Jonathan. I feel really good about Jonathan's idea. Jonathan's very clever idea to talk to other people who work at the club. And it was actually quite cool that two of the people were using stage names, but we found one that wasn't. So that is very cool. And I am curious to see what Will Knight finds from Hutchinson. Okay, so let's put these in here. So Knight is going to H11. Naomi is going to N20. And Bev is going to H83. If you missed, well, let's just do this. Okay, sent, submitted, done. If you missed the Sherlock Holmes playthrough, an interesting thing happened. I misread the address of someone, and when we put it in to the system, it said something along the lines of Miss Hudson, like I put in an address, I put in the wrong address, and it said, Miss Hudson, there are multiple things that she might be interested in that location. Tell us what in particular you want that person to do there. Interview example, interview Mr. X or whatever. And that's when we realized that I had put in the wrong address. It was a typo. So we've gotten a glimpse now. The game said there are multiple things the person might want to do there, but tell us what you want to do. But it was clear that that was the answer that it gave you when it really had no reason for you to be there. So now that's a little bit of a clue. And Debbie is leaving us, half asleep already. Thanks for a fun session. Okay, Debbie, we'll see you next time. And I guess we can wrap up here. I love this idea of how we might have a lead on Poppy's boyfriend. And I think we've got our hooks into Poppy, and now we just don't let go. All right, so I'll be at Gen Con next week, as I said, but hopefully we'll be playing this again in 7 to 10 days. Let me know in the channel somewhere if you've got a better time you want to play, better day and time. But leave comments below. If you watch this after the fact, leave your comments below what places you think we should go next. All right. Jonathan says, yeah, I wonder if someone on staff who is in charge of trying to write a response. I would guess that in the beginning, there would be someone reading these back-end solutions, or maybe just if lots of people try to go to a place that they don't have a reply for, then it would trigger someone to pay attention to. But it is a good idea. All right. Thank you again for joining me. I'll see you next time, or I'll see you at Gen Con. And we'll see if we can get a lead on Poppy's boyfriend. I'll talk to you later.